Okay, I haven't made a video in a while, frankly, because this thing is basically done. And I've been running it for a couple months now, and I'm pretty much got it how I like it. So what I've done is, as you can tell, I've kind of changed it up how I mounted it. I printed this little thing. I've got this board here, this basically two little plates that I connected all of the devices together. So I've still got my Teensy. This is now a 4.1 because it has an SD card slot, but I am not using it and I don't know if I will use it. And so yeah, this still is doing all the CAN bus stuff. The Arduino here is doing all of the two AEM oil sensors for pressure and for temperature. It is linked underneath there in my hodgepodge of wires. It's not elegant, but it works. It's linked to the Teensy to feed that into it. And then I've got a new little goodie in here is I've added an ESP32, and that is now receiving data from the Teensy. Basically, whatever I want to feed it, I can send it to the ESP. This will broadcast it over Bluetooth to my Android tablet, and I can data log to either SoloStorm for autocross, or I've got it set up to work with TrackAddict, which is what I use for a track day. So this video, I'm going to kind of just, show kind of just the final wiring. Well, this is just about it. But I'm also going to describe how I am using the ESP to data log wirelessly to an app. So it only works on an Android tablet because I'm using Bluetooth serial. And as far as I know, there is not like a good way of doing that on iPhones. I don't know. You figure it out, let me know. But this is my little breadboard thing here. You can see I forgot to print a piece and I had to cut it for the USB connections. But all of my wiring goes out here and it's all pretty well secured now because with these little screw tap thingies. And it goes underneath to a bunch of soldering, and then it all goes into here. These things are mounted in little kind of sockets, if you will. You can kind of see them right there. So I can actually remove this stuff if I have to, but I've got like a bag full of extras, so it's whatever. It's just made it easier to solder. Obviously, my little CAN transceiver sits right there, and that hooks up into there. So this is, I've kind of just been tidying up the wiring a little bit, aka just zip tying everything together. So this is all the wiring for everything, the screen, the CAN bus, the power, the AEM, the oil sensors and stuff like that. So if I turn it on here, you can see I've got my little idle data, which is normal. Let me zoom out here, there we go. So it's running as normal. This is everything that if you watch these videos, this is everything that it's already done before. And I've still got my little plate up here. I've got power for the whole unit. And then this green button, it used to designate whether I was data logging or not, but this code doesn't care. It will detect whether it's it always basically logs data logging stuff, but depending on what I'm doing, the app will only grab the data it needs. So right now it's agnostic. This button, all it does is it changes the mode, the display mode basically. So if I'm on a track, I just care about those temperatures, right? But I'll show you with my tablet how this stuff actually gets like broadcasted out and how the apps pick them up. So I'm going to put this thing back together again. I'll grab the tablet and we will take a look at how it gets broadcasted over Bluetooth. So we got the tablet here. It is just sitting, not connected to anything, right? The device is on, it's just idling, if you will, with the car off. So what I'm going to do is the ESP is behind there. I'm going to connect to it. And you can see that it starts streaming data across. So it's only doing this when a device is connected. If there is nothing connected to Bluetooth, it will not really do anything just because there's no reason to. So you can see that by default, with just anything connecting to it, it will stream this data right here. This is basically the engine telemetry that I care about, that I would want TrackAddict to log. So this is a TrackAddict formatted like protocol. They have NBP or whatever they call it. And this is streaming over Bluetooth. Ends up being about 20 hertz, 20 updates a second, right? 20 hertz and stuff like that. That's about what I got it to. So one of the biggest things is getting the formatting right. And so it was actually very straightforward and it works. So by default, it will stream to this data. This is coming across Bluetooth serial. It will stream it to whoever is listening. Now, if you want to do autocross and do SoloStorm, they are expecting an OBDLink as one of the methods, right? So I have basically emulated what it can do. So I got one, or I tested it, I did a whole bunch of stuff with it. So what happens with SoloStorm, when it first connects, it will connect and it will basically start getting this data here and it doesn't know what to do with it. So it sends an ATZ command. I'll send one right now. So when the ESP sees that, it says, okay, there's something else trying to talk to me. It stops. The SoloStorm then says it says a bunch of things. Let's be fair here. There's a big handshake involved. It only cares about basically two values. I just send okay back. STP33 tells the device that it wants to do canbus. So now the ESP32 knows that I want to do canbus for SoloStorm, right? And at the end, it'll do an STM. And as you can see here, it's streaming data a lot differently. These are basically canbus frames. So instead of directly relaying all of the canbus data that I'm getting on the Teensy, I'm only sending a couple values to SoloStorm because I don't care about knock and other stuff. I care about throttle and brake and RPM, right? I'm only sending a very few number of values. This is a canbus frame that SoloStorm receives. So right now, this would be expecting that SoloStorm is parsing this, and it's parsing the values just like I did on the Teensy and stuff like that. When it's done, it'll ATPC, and it defaults back to the TrackAddict mode. So this is what the raw data looks like over Bluetooth, and by default, this is the TrackAddict format. And then if you want to go down here, you would do these little modes, and you want to send it like this. This is just how I did it to account for both apps. If you're only doing SoloStorm, you just care about sending this data right here, and everybody's happy. So this is the raw data. We're going to switch over to the apps now, and I will show you how that looks. Okay, we'll do TrackAddict first. So I'm going to fire it up. As you can see, it says down there, NBP connected. That's because I've got it configured for Bluetooth. So we can go into settings here, and you go over here. I'll scroll down a little bit. So right here is where the additional sensors are. I was using USB at one point, and it actually worked, and I was happy with it, but SoloStorm can't do USB, so I had to change it up a little bit. Didn't try Wi-Fi, so I'm using Bluetooth. I'm connected to my Bluetooth device. And that's all you have to do. Once you're attached to it and the tablet can attach to it, you're good to go. And so when you see the green there, that means it is connected and everything's happy. It's receiving data. And if I go down here and go to live data monitor, you can see I've got values right there. So it's going to give me GPS off of the tablet, GPS, the Bluetooth on there and stuff, and the accelerometer data and stuff like that. So this is everything TrackAddict knows about. But all of these goodies right here are coming from the devices back there, and it's broadcasted over Bluetooth. So this is what TrackAddict will see, and then it will data log this to the CSV file that you can pull out and then get into race render or whatever you want to use for videos to make yourself look really cool, I guess, or try to in my case. So we'll do SoloStorm right now, and let's take a look at that one. Okay, so we'll do SoloStorm. Hopefully it does not have to update. It probably doesn't. Now I'm gonna do a quick thing here. This is gonna take a second because it's gonna try and find everything before the canbus connector. You can see it takes a little bit, but we're getting canbus data. It's really erratic, but trust me, it ends up being about 20 hertz, but it's whatever. It's just sporadic. So if I go to channels, you can see I've got RPM, throttle, brake, and speed. I'm getting OBD speed from the car, not just the GPS. So brake pressure is only, it's the switch on off. I could not get the pressure sensor to read. I don't know which memory address that is or whatever. So in any case, these are the values I'm getting. So this proves, you know, and it works. I've got videos out of SoloStorm and it actually works. So what I can show you is, what I'll do is let's turn this off and we will go into settings. So as you can see, I am an OBDLink. I am emulating one. I built my own basically. And if I go into here to test, what happens when I'm going to click connect is it's going to send that ATZ and those other commands. So right now, if I connect it to it over Bluetooth, it's going to stream the TrackAddict data that this app doesn't know what the heck it is. I click connect, you give it a second here, boom. You can see it detected SoloStorm, and now I am getting canbus frames on an ID I made up. So I'm using 1, 2, 3. And these values are what are bytes that I am sending it, basically. And this is how SoloStorm sees it. It just thinks you're streaming it raw canbus data, but I'm streaming it exactly what I want. And then if I go down to, let's see, I think it's the CAN, nope, it's not the CAN library. If I go down to channels, and let's look at RPM, and you can see I'm pulling it off of the canvas. You can see I mapped it manually, so I know exactly what my frame looks like. So I basically told it, hey, I'm message ID 1, 2, 3, all that stuff. There it is. I know exactly where the data is in the canbus frame, and I tell it that, and then so the other ones are like the other bytes, and I tell it how to map it and do the math, and everybody is happy. So this is how I can get SoloStorm data onto my tablet Bluetooth from there, and it works pretty well. It's pretty cool. I'm happy with it. There's one last thing I wanted to mention is how the ESP32 works with Bluetooth. In case anybody has ever tried this, this may also hang up other stuff completely unrelated to you, but if you're trying to do Bluetooth serial, this is, you want to watch this basically. So what we're seeing here is we're seeing the TrackAddict data and everything's fine. What I found is when I was first developing this, I would get a stream of data for a couple seconds. I would get then a pause. Nothing would work. And about half a second to a second later, it would start again. It would run for a couple seconds, stop, run, stop, run, stop. Extremely infuriating because everything looked fine. I found by turning on all of the debug logs in the ESP that the Bluetooth module was actually going to sleep. It was going into a low power mode even when broadcasting. That is because it was waiting for something to talk back to it to say, hello, I'm still here. And so it is like a power saving mode, right? And that took a lot of trial and error. It took a lot of nights trying to do ChatGPT to tell me what to do, and a lot of things that it came with made no sense. They didn't exist. I finally found that there is a function you can call when you turn on the ESP that will tell it to not use the low power sleep mode. And what that is that allows this to continuously stream without the ESP putting it into sleep mode. Huge thing. Otherwise, it would get these pauses and you would never get good data out of it, and it would be extremely infuriating. I only had this problem with SoloStorm. I did not have this problem with TrackAddict. In the real world, on a bench when I was testing with nothing connected to it, it would never work at all. TrackAddict actually sends every couple of seconds, it sends a hello over Bluetooth that the ESP picks up and says, oh, there's still somebody here. I'm going to keep pumping data out. Otherwise, nothing you can do even if you're constantly sending data in a loop, you will always get that low power mode, and then it will bring itself back out about a half second later. SoloStorm does not send a hello or a heartbeat. I actually was talking to the devs about it and was, they confirmed, we had a conversation and it made sense. They were like, that actually explains it. But I got around that by manually forcing the ESP to stay out of low power mode. That is your solution. I will have code in my GitHub that I'll post the link to, and I'll post like probably the snippet. Maybe I probably already have posted that by now, hopefully on the video. But if you are doing this and you are getting gaps in your data where it pauses, that is your problem. You need to be turning off low power mode.